Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. You guessed it, AMC stock is red on the day yet again. Earlier in the day, as we made the first video of the day today around lunchtime, because who doesn't like to get up on their AMC information around lunchtime as you're eating that sandwich? Well, AMC stock was up over 5%. Now the stock is red. At one point today, you hit a low of $10.72 per share. What in the hell is going on, and what do you need to know as an investor in AMC stock? We're going to go ahead and get you guys caught up to speed with the latest. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Source your comments, questions, or concerns down below in the comment section, guys. So first things first, what's happening today? Well, a lot of volatility. We had the JOLTS job openings that came in better than expectations. At 8, let's go ahead and pull it up, 8.82 million. This was better than the expected 9.465 million. Well, that's great. Great news. But tomorrow we're going to have another big catalyst as well, and that is the ADP employment change. That comes out at 8:15 in the morning tomorrow. You're expecting 195,000 job ads. If this number comes in higher than that, well, boy, you're going to have a problem. Because why? This tells us that maybe that non-farm payroll report at the end of this week is probably going to come in hot as well. And then what does it matter if job openings come down if the labor market's still adding a bunch of jobs, or if the unemployment rate goes up and the job openings come down? What's it matter? You're not constricting the workforce, or if you are, you're doing it on both sides, right? So that's important to know. We're going to have a lot of data this week, and the data will be big for the markets. Now, big for the markets does not mean big for AMC stock. You would have expected AMC would be ripping today, as it was at one point in the beginning of the trading day. Let's face a simple fact. There is massive, how many massives do I have to give? Manipulation that goes on with AMC. And the SEC and nobody else gives a two-faced flying chip fuck about it, okay? Sorry, it's a little irritating that you could see this much manipulation and nobody cares, okay? That's a problem. I think that's a problem with the broader system itself. Now, let's talk specifically AMC. Something that I reported yesterday is we had 120,000 calls that were in the money at the close of trading yesterday. I think those calls were actually exercised and turned into shares. That makes a lot of sense to me, especially if it was under $11 per share. As you can see, AMC stock is really fighting at $11 per share. If they exercised those options under 11, well, you made money today, right? So that makes sense to me. It does not seem like, to me at least, that those were just dumped out of. It's possible, but that is a huge trade in a very short amount of time. So I guess we'll have to see what ultimately happens with the option chain and how AMC performs the rest of this week. Now, nonetheless, let's take a look at the current option numbers that are on this expiration. So calls in the money at about 3,700, calls out the money at 56,770, puts in the money 27,427, puts out the money at 33,615. So there is a lot of option activity relative to kind of where the flow is outstanding currently. The out the money calls controls about 5.6 million shares worth of AMC stock. The out the money and in the money puts controls about the same, about 5.5 million worth of potential shorting pressure the market makers might have to put on AMC stock if the stock were to continue to fall. Now, as I've said many times, I do expect a big bounce to come at some point in the near-term future. Why? Because the RSI is extremely oversold, and you have not been this oversold in a long time. Back here since January of 2022, and what happened? The stock bounced in 3x subsequently about a month later. So hey, you've fallen over and over and over and over again. Every single day has been a, you guessed it, red day. We're yet to have a green day since the conversion of AMC. The stock has literally been falling every single day. Okay, I think that's something to keep in mind, something to remember, right? When you do get that bounce, it's probably going to be pretty dang aggressive. It's probably going to be a pretty big move to the upside, and don't be shocked when that happens, right? I thought possibly that would even be today, but as you can see, the manipulation just takes over some days, and again, the SEC and nobody really cares about what's going on with AMC when push comes to shove. Now, as far as kind of what the data looks like, well, we don't know is one of the biggest problems right now. We don't have any real numbers from Ortex. Shares out on loan maybe is correct. It says 27.4 million. Based on the float that we're seeing at about 59 million, this would be short interest of close to 50%. So that would be higher than my estimate. My estimate is 35 to 45%. That certainly is possible, given how much that we have fallen recently. It wouldn't surprise me to see short interest over 50%, as I have said many, many times. Now, you have a short score of 83, 205 million worth of short positions currently in AMC stock. Ortex says 12.5% short interest. That is complete BS, and that is completely not true. That is one of the biggest problems right now is, again, we just don't know where this data actually is. Last we knew, the official short interest report was over 29% short interest on August 15th. The stock has dropped about 60% since then. So extrapolate that information how you'd please. I think 35 to 45% short interest, my estimate, pretty conservative. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section, what the actual short interest is. But once we get some real numbers, we might be able to accurately judge what the situation looks like with AMC stock. I don't know when that will happen. I don't know if it's the next exchange reported short interest. That's a possibility. We've seen that before. Ortex will estimate like 18% short interest, but the real short interest is 25%. And then you'll see a big update, and Ortex will update their information. So it's hard to say when exactly this data will come back kind of accurate again. Even some of the cost to borrow fees are not true. Interactive Brokers, cost to borrow fees currently at about 13.5%. We know that's not true. 2.8 million shares that are currently available to be lent out. If maybe that's true, I mean, that seems like it could be a possibility. If we look at cost to borrow average, that's 10%. Cost to borrow max, 378.5%. Cost to borrow minimum, 8.59%. So I'm taking all of this with a grain of salt. None of it looks true. Now, what we do know, AMC stock still on the threshold securities list. It's been on this list for months now. Come on, SEC, what's going on, buddy? It's been on this for months. Months. What other stock is on the FTD list for months and does not get any kind of investigation or anything? It's actually quite insane what's going on. If we take a look at the FTD numbers for today, 8.4 million, tomorrow 7.5 million, then you hit a low on Friday of 6.8 million, and then you start to rebound again next week, and likely once we get more numbers coming in, probably even going to go higher for next week's FTD numbers into the close of Friday of next week. So just remember, the FTDs are essentially shares that need to be closed out of at some point in the future. AMC stock's been on the FTD list or threshold securities list for months now, so who knows when that actually does happen, but at some point that will need to happen. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the activity today in the land of options, and we are going to be looking at the September 1st expiration. That is this Friday. These options have the potential to move AMC stock the most because they're very near term. Obviously, other expirations can also have an effect on AMC. That's obvious, but these are going to have the biggest effect. And what we really see is quite a bit of option activity. This is all relative to the outstanding float that we currently have now. So the float that we have now is about 59 million, right? So what we're looking at here is 3,300 calls currently out the money at the $11 call. You have 1,000 at the $11.50, 6,000 at the 12, 1,000 at the $12.50, and 10,600 at the $13 strike. At the $15 strike, that's where you're seeing the most option activity, and that is about 13,000, and then at the 18 you're at 16,000. So there is quite a bit of activity right here just outside of the money. And then also you got to acknowledge the puts. At the 10.50 put you have 2,000 for open interest, and at the $10 put you have 30,000 for open interest. So this is really going to be a tug of war kind of battle throughout the rest of this week. And if AMC does choose a direction, it's going to get volatile in both sides. Now, if we look at the technicals here, All of this supports a bounce. I mean, just keep in mind, we've been down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trading days in a row, and we're not talking small numbers here. Today was the smallest drop that we have seen, down 1.45% on the day, actually up 0.10% in after hours, hit a low of $10.72. You closed at $10.91. So at one point today, the sell-off was huge, just like we've seen in other days. Well, not as big as other days. I think we were down like 5 or 6% at one point of the trading day today. But when you look at the RSI, that is extremely oversold. And if you look at the MACD, that is by far the most bearish that we have ever been at in AMC's kind of history here. You've never been this bearish on the MACD. So usually when things just get this bearish, you typically tend to get a bounce. Now, I've made this analogy a couple times in other videos, and I think a lot of people are confused about bankruptcy, right? I've pointed out that even companies that are going bankrupt will catch a bounce, and sometimes will rally hundreds of percents after the bankruptcy announcement comes out. AMC's not going bankrupt. The reason I bring that up is because when you are at your worst kind of point possible, bankruptcy, just the bankruptcy news alone, people are like, hey, it can't get worse from here. Let's buy the stock. That's where we're at with AMC. It just can't get worse from here. Let's buy the stock. That's essentially what's going on. AMC stock is less than $1 billion for its market cap, which is absolutely insane. And on a split adjusted basis, I mean, you were at $40, $50 plus back here in the beginning of August. It is August 29th, and you are less than $11 per share. You have fallen 80% since the beginning of August. Huh? That don't even make sense when you haven't seen that much dilution in the grand scope of things. So once that actual dilution does get announced, that AMC raised X amount of capital or sold, 10% of the float, the markets are probably going to eat that up, and AMC stock is probably going to rally. So from here, I think $10 is a big psychological level. I don't see the stock going under 10, although I didn't see the stock going under 12. And I was surprised there. So it wouldn't surprise me if I'm surprised again. But at some point in the near term future, we should bounce. And just given how much AMC stock can move, I mean, it could be a very large bounce. Again, you were $40, $50 in the beginning of August. So a bounce to the 20s would be like AMC going from $1 to $2 just a couple of weeks ago. So you could see some huge dollar movements here, and you got to keep that in mind in your analysis as well, guys. So there is all of that. The data coming out tomorrow will move the markets. I don't think there will be that much correlation with AMC, because we just didn't see that as well today. The markets absolutely ripped faces off today, and AMC stock did not. The NASDAQ was up over 2%, and the S&P was up about 1.5%. AMC stock did not get any of that same love, guys. So that is going to do it for this video. Let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think about all of this information? What is your opinion on AMC stock right now, and where is AMC stock going over the next coming days and next couple of weeks? So thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.